On December 20th, 2024, I published a video called HLX Files Guide Dead, a spin-off episode of the HLX Files series that was not talking specifically about HLX or Half-Life 3 of any capacity. Instead, the subject of the video was focused on the rumored upcoming hardware that Valve was set to be releasing at some point in the next few years. At the time of publishing that video, we knew that Valve was working on the next-generation VR headset that was codenamed the Deckard. However, the video also posited that they were also working on a console. Now, it was not my assumption and nobody's assumption that Valve would be making both the headset and the console available at the exact same time. One of the main sources of information that was used in that video was an asset leak that took place in a Steam VR update that actually showed the in-development model renders of the VR headset controllers, as well as an image of what was codenamed the Ibex controller. This was what exactly became the Steam Controller 2.0, the Steam Deck without a screen with all of the available inputs that you come to expect on said Steam Deck. And a few days ago, all of that was announced all at once. Of course, when big announcements come from Valve, people do expect them to be talking about a game at the same time. While Valve did come out and say that no, they didn't develop a new VR game for the Steam frame, and they haven't developed any new demos to showcase this hardware, according to Upload VR, they didn't not say that they weren't working on any games whatsoever. And it should be stated that every single outlet that talked about this new hardware put in the article or the video that there was some rumors going on in relation to the future of the Half-Life franchise. Thanks to myself and my colleagues such as Gabe Follower and Sadly It's Bradley, the rumors of HLX have been far and wide. Effectively, pretty much everybody that knows anything knows that HLX is in development and something is set to be happening soon enough. A lot has happened, and I want to make sure that everybody understands before we move forward that until Valve announces something, everything that we talk about today should be seen as speculation, and to take all of this with a pretty sizable grain of salt. Hi, my name is Ty Vickers. I'm the host of the Passionate Gamer program on WTMV Cleveland.
It would be Bryan Cranston as a high school chemistry teacher, him and his old students.
Today's sponsor is Into the AM, who provided me with these clothes to look like I work with people in a games company. In my time period, 1990X. Do you too want to dress like you're a guy that works in game development in the late 90s? Like me? Because that's today. Into the AM can hook you up. They also have a lot of other kinds of good clothes, and I recommend them a lot. I've worn them for years. They've been clothing me since I was born. That's not true, but since I was about 20. The Black Friday sale is here. Click the link in the description to unlock up to 60% off for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and make sure to use my code for an additional 10% off for an even greater deal. These deals won't be back until next year. Don't wait. Shop now before it's gone. Check out the link in the description below to get yourself some clothes on a good deal. So the Steam frame, the Steam machine, and the Steam controller, all set to be released at some point in 2026. On the official press release that Casey put out within the Valve press list, Valve is aiming for an early 26 release. The entire industry appears to be looking at this announcement as one of the biggest and greatest leap forwards in customer freedom within the gaming industry. Valve has not announced a price point, and people have been speculating anywhere between $400 to $1,200 for any of these individual components. And I have only ever heard that the Steam frame was set to be priced at $1,200 only a few months ago. Looking at the specifications, it does not seem like Valve is going to be charging that much. And if the gaming public wants this hardware to have the kind of democratic effect that the Steam Deck has had, it would need to be significantly cheaper. The importance and the success of what the Steam machine, the Steam controller, and the Steam frame are aiming to do has to do with that price point. That is the most important aspect of this entire endeavor. And I'm always going to err on the side of caution and call it a bit more expensive, so that even if it ends up being cheaper, it's a surprise, but a good one. A couple of days ago, an art leak was found on 4chan. An individual that posted to the anonymous website claimed that this was key art and concept art that was developed around 2022 for the now heavily rumored HLX project. The art itself showcases a lot of real-world environments in an Eastern European setting being overtaken by the Aperture Science ship, the Borealis. Now, the story beats do make sense. The Borealis is an interdimensional ship that was used for teleportation testing that was taken over by the Combine at some point after the events of Half-Life 2. That said, this is fake. Some of these pieces of art are actually really good. This is just really well-made fan art that's photo-bashed with real-world stock elements and also screenshots from Portal 1 and Half-Life Alyx. However, there's a couple of very key tells that absolutely tell you that this is not an official piece of Valve artwork. Portal doesn't look like that, according to Valve's own canonical idea of the Aperture Science universe. Portal looks like Portal 2. The use of Portal 1 art is something that Valve would not have done at any point following the release of Portal 2. Portal is Valve's most used franchise when talking about anything, really, and it always looks like Portal 2. It doesn't look like this. And I mean, of course, it's not an HLX Files video without some string leaks. These were found in the latest Counter-Strike 2 update that was pushed on October 8th. Entity use fast refresh rate. Use fast refresh. Entity will run at a faster refresh rate when enabled. Use sparingly. Fluid drag scale. Physics properties. Fluid drag scale. Scale on fluid forces applied to this object, not including buoyancy. Ability use position. An optional entity that marks where to move before using an ability. Materials dev default, and of course some developer materials. And a new sound container. Tape player. This is a script that plays sound files with certain effects placed on them. It's not the sound effect, but how the sound effect is being manipulated. This is a script that automatically manipulates sound effects to sound like they're coming from a tape recorder. So about 12 to 24 hours before the announcements of the hardware were made, quite a few people started teasing things on social media. A lot of people were talking about the 12th as being the next step in the VR industry, and those people were correct. However, a few of them stated that the Valve hardware announcement was not the whole story. I don't want to add to unnecessary hype here, but I did do my due diligence and reach out to the individuals making these claims. I was able to ask the kinds of questions that would either verify or debunk the kinds of claims, and although some of the specifics that these individuals were told directly don't necessarily line up with the things that I have been told, that doesn't necessarily mean anything in particular because I could have been fed a line of crap myself. So many people within the games journalistic industry have been saying things related to HLX, but without saying it directly. Mike Straw from Inside Gaming, Jeff Grubb, the co-owner of Giant Bomb, Shrapnel Nick from Xbox Era and the Xbox Era podcast, Jez Corden from Windows Central, and Tom Henderson. Of course, there's always the slight possibility that everybody is just kind of hearing the same rumors from everybody else and it plays out in a game of telephone. So, like I always said, take anything anybody says about Valve software with a grain of salt. It does feel as if the announcements have not ended. If Valve announced a console, a VR headset, and a controller on the same day that they announced a full-blown Half-Life sequel, would anybody be talking about the hardware? So likely they wanted to space this kind of information out so that there was enough time for people to get hyped over the hardware and then get truly hyped over the software. A few weeks ago, I published my previous episode of the HLX Files. Now, my exact words were stating that there was a rumor related to work on a trailer beginning at Valve Software. A lot of people took this to mean that I was saying that November 18th was the announcement date of Half-Life 3. I did not say that. And even if it does end up being true, I don't want people putting words in my mouth that I did not directly say. I was very careful with the words that I picked, and although we have not been able to confirm nor deny that the hardware announcement trailer was the trailer that was talked about in that rumor, we, however, have a couple of things to debunk. The biggest one being Steam events, Steam sales, and Steam fests having any bearing on the announcement and release of Valve products. There are people on the Half-Life subreddit that claim to think that the Half-Life project is going to be announced at some point in November, specifically November 18th or November 19th, due to there being a gap in Steam events in that period of time. Others claim that a Steam event was rescheduled, and that rescheduling was done in order to make room for the large software announcement. The announcement of Valve products have zero bearing on the announcement of Steam events. November 18th is a rumor. If somebody is talking to you and claims to think that is the exact date, there is a 95% chance they got that information from somebody who got that information from somebody who goes on Reddit. There is nothing directly to suggest any specific date. My colleague Gabe Follower recently made a public statement that nothing has changed in Valve's want to make an announcement in 2025 for HLX. And I am sitting here to say, as far as I can tell, nothing has changed. Hell, go all the way back to the beginning of the year with Jason Schreier not only calling that Grand Theft Auto 6 was not going to be hitting its deadline, but Silksong was. Except, it seems, shortly after I tweeted about Jason Schreier's own predictions, Mr. Schreier took to the Half-Life subreddit to speak on the predictions themselves, stating, quote, "As some of you may know, I report on the video games industry and often break news based on inside information. As some of you may have seen, thanks to Tyler McVicker and other hype merchants, I predicted at the beginning of this year that a new Half-Life would be announced. Here's the twist, though. My predictions are explicitly not based on inside information, as we say on Triple Click every year." Triple Click is his podcast. Otherwise, they wouldn't be very fun predictions. I have no idea whether or not Half-Life is being announced this year. Have a nice day. When asked why Jason Schreier, of all people, would randomly pop up in this subreddit and clarify his prediction, Jason Schreier said, quote, "Because I take my track record of accuracy seriously and don't want people saying I got something wrong if the game doesn't get announced when I never reported that it would be announced in the first place." Somebody else asked, "Can I ask what made you predict that it'll be announced, not come out, this year? Was it just the tingles?" Mr. Schreier said, quote, "The ending of Half-Life Alyx makes it clear that they wanted to keep going, and we're approaching 6 years since that game, which is about as long as big games take to make these days. That's pretty much it. I don't want to be the guy who brings you down. I don't want to be the guy that sets you up for disappointment. So please, keep in mind that until Valve says something directly, everything that myself and my colleagues say needs to be taken with a grain of salt and needs to be seen in some form as speculation. It has never felt this way before. I know that that's incredibly emotional, not at all logical, and not at all empirical, but it has never felt this way before. My first Half-Life 3 video was actually a video about the future of Half-Life 2 Episode 3, which I published in July of 2011. I was 14. I am now 28. If you divide 28 by 2, aka having it, that's 14. I have been chasing the Half-Life 3 story for literally half my life, and it has never felt like this before. This may very well be the final episode of the HLX files. Unfortunately, this is Valve software, so of course the announcement could end up being like January or February. Fortunately, nothing has come out to debunk the Valve wants the announcement in the calendar year of 2025 rumor. Then again, it's Valve. Valve time exists, and that's just the way of the beast. What does matter at the end of the day is that HLX is like a real thing that's been in production at Valve since at least 2021, but likely even before that. And it's been in the optimization, polish, refactor phase for almost a year. That's great. This is fun. And as long as people understand the nature of the beast, we're having a great time. But then what's the future of this channel? Well, as I said at the top of the video, Upload VR was able to get a quote out of Valve stating that there was no demos or software being developed for the Steam frame or for their hardware. This means that they don't have any of those rumored demos in development currently. Well, I mean, that's kind of bad news, right? Well, that also means the codename TF is not a demo. That also means codename TF is not a demo. It received a lot of attention in the latest updates that we data mined on the 8th of November. Of course, there are specifics like string leaks and things of that nature, but you're gonna have to wait for the next episode of the TF files. So, let's subscribe. I'm Tyler McVicker, the Passionate Gamer. I'll talk to you all next time. Peace and hair grease. Adios.